Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's edition for Tuesday, the 1st of March, comes to you from London. And we start looking at our usual list. We start with Forex, then look at stock markets, and last of all, some commodities. So, looking at the dollar index, first of all, remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, we're seeing the dollar just falling away a little bit after a strong rise towards the end of last week, but still looking bullish on the long term. Of course, these long term targets in play, and the euro sitting at 112 against the dollar in bearish territory on the medium and long term charts. Shorter term, we are seeing a little bit of a recovery, but we do still have these downside targets hanging over us. Euro looking weaker. Sterling sitting at 134 against the dollar, so just recovering a little bit off that ground, but obviously did have pretty big falls at the end of last week, as we see on that weekly candle. Looking at the euro, we're sitting at 119.66 for sterling, and just struggling to get back through that 120 level. Bitcoin sitting at $43,000, so we've seen a bit of a bounce here, finding support on the cloud and looking stronger this morning. So that's good news for cryptocurrency traders. The S&P 500 index didn't fall to the levels that the futures were indicating yesterday, but it is still bearish on the medium and short-term timeframes with this downside target activated, and that is hanging over us. And the same for the Nasdaq. Looking at the futures this morning, we are down, so the market will probably open lower, and the VIX volatility is just sitting on that 30 level, so remains fearful. Remember, if we're below 20 on the VIX, then markets are sanguine. If we're above 20, we're slightly fearful, and if we're above 30, we're quite fearful. So the market's still fearful of everything that's going on in the Ukraine-Russia situation is not helping. And of course, we've got the other spectre of inflationary pressures, and that is certainly been driven by this turmoil that we're seeing. The FTSE future down 0.6%. The DAX in Germany continues to fall. This is really the market that's been hit the hardest, which probably has the most exposure to Russia and the Ukraine. Certainly in energy it does. And then if we look at the Asian markets, we're actually relatively strong there. Japan up 0.6%, China up 0.7%. So starting to look a little bit better shorter term. The Sensex India up 0.7% as well. And if we look at the Aussie market, we're also up 0.7%, so looking stronger there too. We'll look at the energy mix in a minute. Ice sugar we're looking at here, just falling away here. So sugar hasn't really benefited in the same way as wheat and corn have. Wheat up a further 2%, so rising there, and the same with corn, really rising as well. Looking at gold, we're sitting at 1914, so you'll remember I said yesterday above 1900 we're bullish, so that's looking pretty good. And we're seeing the precious metals, platinum and palladium, really now catching up as well. US 10-year yields sitting at 180, really falling back. The Fed probably just having a rethink on interest rate rises with all the turmoil that's going on. Looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent crude. This is my daily, my 60-minute, daily, 60-minute and 1 minute. So this is my very short-term chart. Brent crude just pulling back this morning, but still that trend is undeniably higher. US nat gas has looked weaker. We've got some downside targets, but we've seen that just changing this morning. Coal sitting at 165, so really quite big moves there, breaking out to higher levels. So that's really interesting, and we're seeing big moves there, and emissions falling away still, just really having a bit of a sell-off. So again, we're seeing that lower low there, downside target. So that picture deteriorating this morning. Natural gas in Europe starting to look a little bit better this morning, finding some cloud support on the 60-minute chart, and the same with MVP. And German power up a further 5%. So looking like we're finding support and still potentially moving higher. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.